Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our daily Moravian Text Bible study. It's Wednesday, the 8th of April, and we are in Mark chapter 1, verse 21 to 34. And I just want to remind you again of the value of what we're doing here. We are redeeming this time of isolation. We are reframing this time of disruption as an opportunity to deepen in authentic devotion, to deepen in the word, in worship, in prayer, to build strong foundations in our life. And as we get into the word, we ask the question first and foremost, what does it teach us about who Jesus is? And then how do we get to live in the light of that? What is God speaking to us? And how will we live differently as a response? The passage starts in a synagogue in Capernaum, and Jesus drives out a demon from a man. He shakes violently and is set free. The demon speaks to Jesus in verse 24, "I know who you are, the Holy One of God." The passage we're reading today, verse 34, finishes with that. Jesus doesn't let the demon speak because it says, verse 34, they knew who he was. There's a real irony in that the demons have realized who Jesus is before the disciples, and certainly before the Pharisees, the religious rulers, the priests, and the crowds. It's the importance of knowing who Jesus is and his authority. It then moves into the second section. Jesus walks from the Capernaum synagogue across to the oikos, the household of Simon and Andrew, and his mother-in-law is in bed with a fever. She has some sort of virus, some sort of disease that has affected her temperature, and Jesus reaches out his hand, touches her, and the fever leaves immediately. I can't help but think that speaks into this situation that we're in at the moment. Just one touch from Jesus can set any person free from any virus or disease. And what Mark is establishing in the gospel as he writes with such fast pace in these two events, we're going to see it in a number of events that follow, really he is recording a series of shocking events that would have made the reader of the time go, "Oh, that's unusual." He's redefining holiness in those events, what it means to be holy, cleansed and pure. So he starts with a demonic in a synagogue, in a holy place, and he makes the demonic clean. He touches a woman with a fever. In the ancient world, they would have understood contagiousness. They might not have understood how it worked or viruses, but they would have known that if someone had a fever, there's a good chance the household would have caught a fever. And yet it doesn't stop Jesus. He's going to move on to touch a leper, someone unclean. He healed a paralyzed sinner. He then moves on to eat with tax collectors. He and his disciples then pick corn on the Sabbath and heal a withered hand. That's a series of events we're going to see through Mark's gospel. Each one is deliberately challenging the concept that people had about holiness and purity. And Jesus is clearly demonstrating that as he, the Holy One, touches a person's life, he doesn't become contaminated or polluted by their uncleanness, but they become contaminated by his holiness. At a time where we're thinking about corona, COVID-19 contagiousness, I want to remind us that what we carry, the holiness of God that is gifted to us, not earned or achieved through being good and not being naughty, the gift of holiness, the gift of righteousness that is upon you, I want to remind you it is more contagious than any virus. So let our light shine before men, that they may see our good deeds and glorify our Father in heaven. I pray that you will have creative, Holy Spirit inspired ways to let your peace and confidence be contagious, be visible, be transmittable amongst the people you know, whether that be in social media or over the garden fence or in the supermarket queue at a 2 metre distance. I pray God will be at work in you and through you this day.